Okay, so this video is going to cover chapter 15 of Advancing Vocabulary Skills. It's on page 84 if you want to follow along in your book. Um, so here's the words here. If you want to take a second and try and guess at the meanings of these, or at least the part of speech, there's a couple you should be able to pick out easily. Annihilation, and then we have emanate and vindicate. Uh, those ones should be clues. Proficient is sort of a clue. Subversive is sort of a clue. Uh, um, but um, anyway, those aren't 100% clues like the other ones. Okay, so moving along. So here's our first one: analogy. Analogy is a noun. Um, to help people understand vision, teachers often draw an analogy between the eye and a camera. The commencement address titled "You Are the Captain of Your Ship" used the analogy of life as an ocean-going vessel that a captain must steer between rocks. So an analogy is a comparison. On page 85, analogy is number 4. It's a comparison between two things in order to clarify or dramatize a point. So we talked earlier in our reading book about metaphors and similes. And metaphors and similes in some ways are kind of analogies, but not really. An analogy means that you're describing how two things are similar in order to explain something to someone. So for example, in the first one we say the eye and the camera. Um, the teacher is making an analogy between the two of them. She's trying to explain how vision works, how the eye works. So that's something that the students don't really understand. But the students do understand the idea. They do understand how a camera works. So when you make an analogy, it means that you're using something that people understand already to explain something that they don't understand. So in the second one, the analogy is between being the captain of a ship, right? And that's something that people understand, how a ship captain steers a boat around the rocks. So the speaker is using it to say, your life is similar. You're the one who's going to have to steer your life around the difficulties in life. So an analogy is a comparison between two things, and the focus is on helping a person understand something that they don't already understand. So here we have annihilate. So annihilate ends in that ate sound, so this one is a verb. The movie was about a plot to annihilate entire cities by poisoning their water supply. Universal Destroyer is a warlike video game in which the aim is to annihilate the opponents. So what annihilate means is to wipe out. Okay, and on page 85, annihilate is number 5, and it says to destroy completely, reduce to nothingness. So that's so to wipe out means to kill completely. So an example of an attempt, like during World War II, Hitler made an effort to annihilate the Jews, right? To completely wipe them out. There's other situations where that has happened, where there's an attempt to completely destroy someone else. A word that's similar to this that we've talked about is eradicate, right? So eradicate means that you're trying to completely get rid of something. Annihilate has the specific meaning of killing. Killing things. So, if you have pests like ants in your house, you might try to annihilate them, to completely destroy them. But annihilate is one of those things you're destroying it so that there's nothing left there. I don't know, those of you who studied World War II, again, if we talk about the dropping of the atomic bomb in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. An atomic bomb, it completely annihilated, not completely, but it destroyed those cities. It destroyed those cities. There were still some people who survived, but it just completely destroyed them. Another example, if you remember the tsunami from whatever 4 or 5 years ago, that annihilated areas of of Indonesia and also I think Sri Lanka and India, the places that were completely wiped out. There was things there, and then after the tsunami, they weren't there at all. So this is annihilate. Our next one is criterion, and criterion is a noun. One criterion by which writing teachers judge a paper is clear organization. Some advertisers aren't concerned about telling the truth. Their only criterion for a good commercial is selling the product. So a criterion here means a standard. It's number 6 on page 85, a standard by which something is or can be judged. So this is the important thing about the criterion. We can say a standard. A standard can mean like this is what you should do, or this is an example or a model of something. But a criterion, when we talk about criterion, we're really talking about how we judge something, whether it's good or bad. So the example, I believe that the question that I give you is what criterion do you have for a spouse? The plural of criteria, this is an irregular word. I believe the plural is criteria. So criteria may be a word that you're more familiar with, but criteria means what are the things that you're going to judge someone on. So the criterion in this first example, one of the criterions that the writing teachers look is like how clear is the organization. Another criterion might be spelling. Another criterion might be mechanics. Another criterion might be the clarity of the ideas, or the value of the ideas. Okay, but a criterion is something that you use to judge someone, a characteristic that you're using to judge someone. So emanate's a verb. This has that 8 sound. As the cinnamon bread baked, a wonderful smell emanated from the kitchen. The screeching and scraping emanated from Keisha's bedroom, telling me that she was practicing her violin. And what emanate means is to come out. Emanate's number 3 on page 85. To flow or come out from a source, to come forth. So emanate is often used for sense-related things. So a sound in the second one, a sound is coming out from something. In the other one, the smell is coming out from something. In the picture, it's the light that's coming out from some situation. So emanate means sort of like radiate, meaning in that way that it's coming out. Emanate is not going to talk about a physical thing. So those of you guys who took 32, you may remember the word emerge, which also means to come out. But when we use the word emerge, really we tend to be talking about a physical thing coming out of something. So for example, a baby chicken will emerge from the egg. It'll come out of the egg. But we wouldn't say it would emanate from the egg, because the emanate tends to be more with sensory things that are coming from a source, right? So that really the thing that is emanating is telling us about what is at the source. It isn't actually the source, but it's some clue. So in our first example, the smell is what is coming up, and it tells us about the bread. In the second one, the sound of the violin comes out, not the violin itself, but the sound tells us that she's practicing. In the picture, the light is coming out, and it tells us about the sun. So this is a difference between emanate and emerge. So here we have holistic. Holistic is an adjective. A good drugstore takes a holistic approach to treatment, seeing each client not just as a good drug center takes a holistic approach to treatment, seeing each client not just as an addict but as a whole person. Along with medical aid, it provides emotional support, individual and family counseling, and follow-up services. Eastern cultures tend to take a more holistic view of learning than Western societies, focusing on the whole rather than analyzing parts. So holistic means concerned with the whole. It's number 9 on page 85, emphasizing the whole and the interdependence of its parts rather than the parts separately. Okay, so holistic, probably the most, if you've heard this word before, my guess is that you've heard it in regard to medicine. So we talk about holistic medicine. Holistic medicine generally refers to what we here would say is Eastern medicine. So this is things like acupuncture or acupressure, herbal medicine, these sort of things. These medicines are not specifically about treating a specific part of the body. Rather, the focus is on the wellness of the body as a whole. So when we say that it's holistic medicine, what it's saying is that the like with acupuncture, the pain that you have in your stomach, they may treat it by doing something to your back. And I don't know that much about it, but from what I do understand is that the idea is that the body is not a bunch of separate parts that aren't connected, but rather it's a bunch of parts that are all interconnected, and that harm in one part may hurt another part. So we say that this is holistic medicine. Now the question that you guys have for homework is about holistic grading. So when we talk about holistic grading, it means looking at all the parts, all of the things that the student has done, rather than one thing. My classes, I don't grade holistically. I actually grade separately, and I know that some people don't like this, and I'm sure that there's an argument, good arguments against it. But holistic grading would be where the teacher looks at everything that the student has done and makes a decision about whether or not they pass a class. So for example, in my class, you need to pass the summary, you need to pass the novel, you need to pass vocabulary, you need to pass reading. And if you don't pass one of those ones, you can fail the class. In a holistic situation, the professor might be like, well, this person is weak in reading, but they're strong in vocabulary. So overall, I believe that they should be moving forward on to the next level. Okay, so this is when we're talking about holistic grading, is you're looking at everything rather than just a specific criterion. Okay, moving on. Placebo. When the little boy had a headache and there was no aspirin in the house, his mother gave him a placebo, a small candy that she told him was a pain pill. It seemed to work. His headache went away. The doctor lost his license when it was found that the pills for depression he was giving many of his patients were actually placebos, were actually a placebo, just sugar pills. So placebo is fake medicine. Now, on page 85, the definition is a substance which contains no medicine, but which the receiver believes is medicine. That's a better definition than fake medicine. Fake medicine has the meaning of that you are intentionally trying to deceive someone. But normally when we talk about placebo, it means that something that we're using that doesn't have any medicine in it, but we believe that it will help us. So, for example, when doctors are testing new medicines, so say that there's a new medicine for heart disease. Okay, in that trial, they'll give some people the medicine and they'll give some people a placebo, which it would be a pill that doesn't have anything. The reason why they want to do this is they need a comparison for whether or not the medicine actually works. If you give everybody the medicine and you say, this is the medicine and everybody gets it, if it works for some people and it doesn't work for some people, you don't know if it's actually the medicine that's working or it's just the people's belief that they're taking a medicine that's actually working. So, placebos, there's a thing that's called the placebo effect. And what that means is that when people are given something that they think is medicine, their instinct is to feel better. And it may be because of the medicine, but it can may be just because they think they're going to feel better, and that makes them feel better. Okay, so that's what placebo means. All right, proficient. So proficient is an adjective. It's not all that hard to become proficient on a computer. Be patient and you develop the necessary skill. Wayne is a proficient woodworker. He's able to make professional quality desks, bookshelves, and cabinets. So proficient, in this one it says it means expert. On page 85 it says skilled, highly competent. Now when you're proficient means that you're good at doing whatever the skill is that you need to do. Means that it's better. I forget if we had the word in this chapter in with you guys or if it was in, maybe it must have been in 32, but the word adequate means good enough, right? Proficient is a level up from adequate. Adequate means it's fine, it's not great, it's not bad, it's fine, it meets the needs. Proficient means that you do everything correctly, that you do everything well. However, proficient is, in my mind, is not necessarily really a compliment. You know, to say someone's very proficient, that would be a compliment. But proficient just means that you do everything well. You know how to do everything. You're good. You're reliable, and all of those things. But it's not necessarily like, oh, great, you're awesome. It means that you're good at what you do. But so maybe we could think of it as proficient would be a B, awesome would be an A in a class, adequate would be a C in a class. But this is a way to think about it. Staunch. Staunch is an adjective. Although the mayor had been accused of taking bribes, he still had some staunch supporters. Pardon me. The newspaper's astronomical predictions are often way off the mark, yet Teresa remains a staunch believer in astrology and checks her horoscope every day. Staunch means faithful. On page 85, staunch is number 8. Firm, loyal, strong in support. So, a word that we've already talked about that's related to staunch is the word zealot. Now, they're not completely the same, because remember, a zealot is a person who is a strong believer in something, and I said that it tends to be a negative association, and it's often connected with religion, and it's often connected with, an over amount of conviction for something. But what staunch, the similarity with staunch is that staunch means that that someone believes strongly in it, so that even if evidence comes in front of that person that goes against their belief, they still continue to believe in the person or the idea. So, for example, in the first one, we say the mayor was accused of taking bribes. Bribes means that money that people pay them to do favors. But he still has some staunch supporters. So even though it's clear that he's done some bad things, people still support him. In the second one, the astrology is that, Leo, Leo, Capricorn, all of that stuff. If you look in the newspaper, it will give you your horoscope, what's supposed to happen to you that day. But you know, it's not it's not real. And if you were to look at it on a day-to-day basis, you'd find out that more often it's wrong than it's right. So in this case, Teresa still, even though there's this evidence that it's wrong, still continues to believe in something. Um, so so staunch means that you're continuing to believe in something even in the face of information that goes against, that doesn't support, that refutes the belief that you have. All right, subversive. This is an adjective. To some Americans, criticizing the president is a subversive act aimed at undermining his power. To others, it's simply an example of freedom of speech. The so-called consulting company was a cover for subversive activities. It was actually a ring of anti-government agents. And subversive is tending to destroy. So the word in here that in the first sentence that may help you, and this was a word that was in 32, is undermine. So the meaning of undermine means to go to weaken someone from the bottom. Um, uh, yeah, subversive. Subversive is not a verb. Undermine is a verb, but subversive is related. Subversive means that you're being secretive, um, and, and you're doing things with the intention of destroying someone or something. So on page 85, it's acting or intending to undermine or overthrow something established. So this has this meaning of the actions that you're doing. Um, the goal of them is destroying somebody else. Um, Subversive actions are often clandestine. We talked about clandestine, right? So the CIA does a lot of subversive activities. They're involved in other countries, like certainly in Latin America in the 80s and the 70s and 80s. There was a lot of involvement of the U.S. government in subversive activities where they either supported the government or they tried to get the government out of it. And I'm sure that it continues today. But again, so subversive means, again, this idea that you're trying to destroy something, but not from the top, sort of from the bottom. And then here's our last word, vindicate. When Kai was accused of cheating on a geometry test, he vindicated himself by reciting several theorems from memory, proving that he knew the material. In our society, people falsely accused of crimes often must spend a great deal of money on legal fees in order to vindicate themselves. So in this case, vindicate means to prove innocent. So the word that's similar to this that we've already studied is exonerate, right? Exonerate means to prove to be not guilty or to free from blame. Vindicate has the same idea as well. On page 85, it's number 1, to clear from blame or suspicion, justify or prove right. So to vindicate means that you are you're showing that you didn't do something, or to prove yourself right. So so this has two meanings. Vindicate can mean to prove that you're right. Exonerate means just to prove that you're not guilty, right? To free from blame. But vindicate means both of that. It means to free from blame, and also it can mean to prove that you are right. Okay? All right, I am going to stop here because this video has gone much longer than I intended it to. Go ahead and finish up the online activities and the questions and bring those to class, and we'll discuss them before the quiz. Take care. Bye.